Okay, we're going to talk about building relationships. Have you ever heard the quote by Theodore Roosevelt? They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Hopefully that quote will have a little deeper meaning as we go through this section. We often hear and we talk about, as teachers, building relationships, but what exactly does that mean? We're going to dive a little bit deeper and find out. So why are building relationships important? I could sit here and tell you about it, but instead I'm going to rely on this TED Talk by Rita Pierson. I was going to say my friend Rita Pierson, because I feel like once you watch her and you really connect with her, that you feel like you know her. Rita has a rich background in education, and her TED Talk is well worth watching. We're only going to watch a minute or two of this one, but you can go on the internet and find it and watch the whole thing. So we'll start the video, and I hope you find her as inspiring as we have.
But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best, and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like.
Okay, so as Rita said it, relationships are vital. It's important that our students feel like we like them and feel like they have a relationship with us in order to get them to where we want them to be, in order for learning to take place. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about a student that I had. Her name was Addison. She came to me in the second grade. She transferred from another school. And I knew before she came to me from talking to that teacher, and we knew that this transition was going to happen, I knew that there were some challenging behaviors. It was clear that she had a hard time developing relationships with the people in her school. By the time she came to me, her previous teacher and the peers in that classroom, they were scared of her. There was a lot of physical aggression, very tough kiddo, a lot of challenging behaviors. So I knew from the beginning, I had a little bit of insight that we were really going to need to work on building a relationship. And when she first came to my classroom, I couldn't ask her to do academic tasks. If I had started with academic demands, the behavior immediately began. And I tried at first to see, you have to get an idea to see how far you can go and what you can ask and what you can get. But really starting with building a relationship was where we started. And at first I could give her an activity that she liked to do. She had a lot of reinforcers. That wasn't very difficult to figure out with her. But one of the things she liked to do was put together a little 24-piece My Little Pony puzzle. She really liked My Little Pony. And so at first I could sit near her while she did the puzzle, but I couldn't sit very close to her because she didn't want me very close. But over time, I could sit a little bit closer to her and then help her complete the puzzle to where we were actually doing the activity together. And I could talk to her about My Little Pony. And that's kind of where our relationship started, is just slowly in that way, while she was engaging in a preferred activity, we began to build a relationship, just kind of those foundation building blocks. And it wasn't very long before she and I had a pretty good relationship, and I could start asking her to do some academic tasks. And not very much at first, and then increasing over time as our relationship built. But by the end of that school year, I would say that we were besties. We had it figured out. And most of the time, because I had a good relationship and a connection with her, I could ask her to do the things that needed to be done, and we could get through the day just fine. However, if I was gone from the classroom, which of course I was from time to time, I would get phone calls by about 9 o'clock in the morning saying, I'll never forget the day I was homesick, like sick enough, I'm in bed. And my assistant principal calls and says, I need you to talk to Addison for just a minute. Please just talk to her. And I did, and it helped. And she was able to get through the rest of the day. But she needed that relationship with me. She needed to feel safe. She needed to feel secure in that environment. And then we could build on that and get to the point where we were completing academic tasks that needed to be done, of course. It took a little longer for my paras to get in relationship with her. After I had established a relationship, then another person was able to work on a relationship with her. And over time, we all got to where we had the kind of relationship where we could work with her most of the time. Of course, there were times where that wasn't the case. And if there was something through our day off, that always made it a little more challenging. But building a relationship with her was definitely where we needed to start. And we could really see the payoff in the long run. So I hope that you have a situation like that, where when you start implementing these strategies, that they work and you see the power of them and of building a relationship with your students. You probably already have experienced that. We see students a lot like that in public school, where a student might have a relationship with one adult and they'll do something for them that they wouldn't do for anyone else, because that adult has invested in their life. They've spent the time to build a relationship with them and they trust them. There's a foundation of trust there. So I've had several teachers say that a kid was hard to like, that their personality just didn't work with them or whatever. My advice is fake it till you make it. If you have to pretend in the beginning, be a great pretender, boost up on your acting skills, make sure the kids think that you're completely in it, because they'll know if you really are pretending or you're half-hearted about it. They can tell when you really care and you're really showing up for them, and when it's half-hearted. So just keep that in mind. But when you have put the time into the relationship, the great thing is that you might have to put a little more in the beginning as the adult, right? You have to put a little more in to the relationship in the beginning, and before long it is mutual, and you end up, that's one of your favorite students that you enjoy working with the most, because you've taken that time to build the relationship. So it goes both ways. And then the essential component of any relationship, and I've kind of already mentioned this, is safety. Think about how you would feel if you were expected to work with someone you didn't trust. It's a whole different feeling than if you've worked on building a relationship and you have trust with someone, and then you're able to work with them to get any task, however big or small. You can move mountains at that point, right? When there's that foundation of trust and relationship. In the next picture, this is a picture of Jenny. Jenny, of course, has similar stories of students that she's worked with. Here's a student that she worked with who had very challenging behaviors. And over time, Jenny was able to build into the kind of relationship where here they are having fun with vampire teeth. And she's able to engage in the iPad, the activity that he enjoys with him. And just a fun example of what that can look like over time. But Jenny, that's not where you started, right?
That is not where we started. When we getting a reinforcer training posted, I've told a story about this student, so everyone needs to check that out.
Awesome. So one thing we need to keep in mind is to be intentional about making connections with our students and doing that frequently. There are some teachers who will greet their students at the door with a handshake. Maybe they have a special handshake that they've established with that student, or maybe they have a greeting menu and the student chooses how the teacher's going to greet them for the day. That's a great way to start the day. And it also gives you a quick gauge of how your students are doing today. How are they feeling? How are they responding to you? And then engage with your students in a positive way multiple times throughout the day. The frequency of how we engage with our students is really important. When there's a gap in engagement, as humans, we start to feel like our connection is broken. I know I can feel like that with my friends, or even with my husband or with my children. If I haven't spent a lot of time with them, or we haven't, like if we're really busy and we just haven't had a lot of quality time to really connect, I start to feel like something's missing, like it's not quite right. So find those ways to frequently engage with your students. And then find the good. Every single student has good qualities, every one of them. And that may be hard to find in some of your students at first. You might have to dig a little more, be creative, but they're there. Find them and recognize them. And then be genuine. No one likes fake praise. As adults, we don't like fake praise, and we know when it's not genuine. Kids are the same. They're intuitive and they know when we're being fake. So like I said before, if you have to fake it, brush up on your acting skills and make it convincing.